Happy Halloween, everybody. Hope you guys enjoying your Halloween and your first Halloween in this lovely quarantine that we're all in right now. As you guys can see that I am dressed up as Harry Potter just for this Halloween video I'm putting out for you all. And today, I'm very sorry for the lack of content for the past week. Things got in the way, things came up last minute, so I haven't had the time to make videos and Halloween review. So I wanted to spice things up a little bit for this video and combine like all the movies and shows I want to talk about separately on my channel to like the one video and give like my quick short opinion on each one of them. So I won't go overly long on each of the films and TV shows that I will be discussing, but without further ado, let's get started on
You will beware, you're in for a scare.
I know I'm not a 90s kid, but I do have a lot of nostalgia for the Goosebumps TV show. I remember in the late 2000s when they used to show reruns on the show on Cartoon Network during the Halloween time, and I would immediately obsess with the show. I just love the creepy storylines. I just love like all the episodes and R.L. Stine and his like creative like visionary for not only for the show but for the books as well, because I also read the books. And R.L. Stine is basically like the kid novelist version of Stephen King. Like those two are like so similar, but Stephen King is obviously for more of a mature audience, while R.L. Stine was more aimed toward children. And despite his stuff being aimed for kids, there are a lot of creepy and effed up stuff in the show. Like that one episode at the end of The Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 with Hayden Christensen and his head turns around Exorcist style. When I saw that as a kid, I'm like, what in the crap was that? And even till this day, I feel like the show still holds up very well. The storylines are great. The Haunted Mask episode and the Night of the Living Dummy episode. And that one episode too with Ryan Gosling, Say Cheese and Die. Those are one of my favorite episodes of this show, and definitely one to watch every Halloween.
The Craft.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
I just want to get this out of the way very quickly. I'm like no craft fanatic or diehard fan or purist like a lot of people are, but I do have a lot of appreciation for this movie. Mainly because like this movie is basically 1990s the movie. Like the aesthetic, the clothes, the music, the vibe, like the actors, like everything about this movie screams 90s. Like probably like the most 90s horror supernatural witch movie out there. I mean, I guess there's a category for that, but this movie like is a lot of fun to watch, and it's definitely one of the best movies to watch around the spooky season, especially if you're into witchcraft stuff and into like all the supernatural things in this movie. This movie has it for you, and it's basically like Heathers but with witches. Like that alone just sounds awesome. And of course, Fairuza Balk as Nancy, it's just legendary.
Jealous? Jealous? You don't even exist to me!
They wanted to see something different, but something different saw them first. The Hills Have Eyes.
Just like The Craft, The Hills Have Eyes has a huge cult following and a big fan base, but unlike The Craft, I don't really care for this movie all that much, to be honest with you, and I know a lot of people are going to attack me on that. But I don't know if this movie was just too dated for me and too 1970s for me, and don't get me wrong, I love my old school movies, but it does get to a certain point where I watch this movie in the 2020 mindset and in 2020 where I watch it and be like, this is too old for me. Like, the acting is hokey, like some of the technical aspect of this movie isn't really all that good, and I can't really rail on this movie all that much because I know Wes Craven would try so hard for this movie because he did this to get his funding for Manfred Elm Street, a much better movie. I mean, I guess I could kind of see some of the appeal of this movie with some of the cannibal, like, people in this film. But honestly, I didn't think this movie was for me. And coming from Wes Craven, I get it. This was before Nightmare on Elm Street. This was before Scream. But this is honestly one of his weaker films, in my opinion.
Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life.
Don't call me evil anymore! Love that line. Fright Night is one of the most fun vampire movies I've ever seen. And this movie is directed by Tom Holland. Nope. Not Spider-Man. Tom Holland, the director of Child's Play, one of my favorite horror movies and one of my favorite franchises of all time. He directed this movie before he did Child's Play, and I gotta say, I do appreciate this movie, especially since I love Child's Play. I can kind of see some of like the humor and style incorporated in this movie and he used later in that film. This movie's a lot of fun. It's not my favorite vampire movie, but I can just watch it and have a good time with it.
Hello.
I will admit, It Chapter 2 is not great. It has a lot of issues with it, especially with the pacing and the runtime, which I understand because the book is like ginormous and they had to cram a lot of stuff into a 2-hour 50-minute movie. But honestly, for me, it kind of drags at certain points. I love the adult counterparts of the Losers Club, especially Bill Hader as Richie. Like, he was like, I buy him as an older Finn Wolfhard in this movie. I'm such a sucker for Jordan Peele, especially after he won me over with Get Out. He won me over again with Us. Now, I saw this movie when it first came out in theaters. I took a break on YouTube when I saw this movie, so I didn't get a chance to review it. But I will say that Us is probably one of the best horror movies of the 21st century. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like this movie, that think it's confusing, they didn't get the plot, the twist didn't really make sense. Honestly, I bought it. I love the atmosphere, I love Lupita Nyong'o and his family, and I also love the Tether, their counterpart, was freaky as heck. Especially Lupita Nyong'o with me, voice. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but you get the picture.
And you will scream for years.
Come and play with us forever and ever.
The Shining, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And 39 years later, they get a sequel, Doctor Sleep. Now, I will admit, I kind of regret missing out on this movie last year because I really feel like there are a lot of scenes in this movie were theater worthy and definitely worthy of the big screen. And this movie follows the plot of Danny Torrance, the son of Jack and Wendy from the first movie, who's now older and traumatized by the events of the original Shining. And he is connected with someone who also has a Shining, this young girl. And for the most part, I like the first two halves of this movie. But when we get to the final half of this movie, when Danny goes back to the hotel from the first film, that's where I feel like the movie loses it for me, because we get a lot of reenact scenes from The Shining, and some of it okay, but like some of the other scenes, like I really felt like let's just say like I didn't really like the reenacted scenes from The Shining in this movie, and some of the recasting of certain characters from the first movie, which I get it, the original actors are older, but seeing like certain characters from that movie, especially the one who was very iconic, it's kind of jarring to see that, and it's very cringy, to be honest with you. But I'm one of those people that didn't really love this movie like a lot. I know a lot of people love this movie, saying it's one of the best of last year. I mean, that's for y'all, but for me, this was an okay sequel.
And man,
It isn't Benning!
is the warmest place to hide.
this is how you do a remake. John Carpenter's The Thing. I will admit, I've never seen the original The Thing from Another World, but I probably will one day soon. But John Carpenter's The Thing, man. This is The Thing. No pun intended. Practical effects still holds up very well, especially seeing where like the guy gets his arm eaten off by like the stomach chest thing. Well, the thing, and like the thing's head comes off. It comes out of the stomach. I'm like, wow, it is crazy that a movie from decades ago still holds up. It looks way better than most horror movies nowadays.
They want to play games? They're messing with the wrong guy.
What are you in for?
Killer clowns from outer space. It's crazy.
Of course I don't want to miss out on the best movie ever. Guys, I love Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Like, hey, you had to get the movie this. It knows, it's very, very, very self-aware. It's very self-aware how cheesy and corny and bad it is. But that's how I love it. I mean, you have a scene in the movie where there's a police officer and the clown just throw pies on him. And then he just melts. He was pied to death. You can't get any better than that, guys. Like, this movie, masterpiece. And I'm not even joking. Like, don't at me, don't, no. Like, you guys have your guilty pleasures. I have mine, and this is one of them.
I think she's gone.
I honestly had a Mandela effect when I watched Gingersnaps because I could have sworn I've seen this movie. Like, I know the plot, I know it's about a girl that gets like attacked by a werewolf. She becomes one. There's two sisters and the end of death and all the other stuff. So I know what this movie is about. But when I watched this movie yesterday, I was going, I don't remember none of this. But that's alright because this is actually a really good werewolf movie. It's not as great as American Werewolf in London, but I do enjoy it. One interesting thing about this movie, and what I think it stands out for most werewolf movies that I've seen, is that instead of Ginger going through the transformation of one night during the full moon, she goes for it day by day. Like, she's growing fangs, her hair is changing, her skin is changing, she's getting claws, like she's starting to become more animal-like, more aggressive. And during that process, like throughout like whatever time span this movie has, it's like, oh my god, she is literally turning into a wolf. And even grows a tail too.
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
Not only does this movie define the genre, but this movie also defines cinema, period. There's no other exorcism movie like The Exorcist. And then, years later, we get so many imitations and rip-offs and knockoffs and failed attempts of exorcism movies being like this movie. And they all failed for an obvious reason, because this one was just so darn good. I mean, you guys all know the plot of this movie, so I'm not going to go in depth on it, especially for this video. But I will say, one year, or like one October, I will talk about the movie in depth one day, because this is definitely a movie where you just go in depth, you go deep into this movie, you just analyze it, all the hidden meanings and subliminal images, which were very terrifying, by the way. There's just a lot of stuff in this movie. It's not just a movie about this girl who gets possessed by a demon and try to get it out of her. It's much more than that. Like, this movie is about redemption, about mother and daughter. It's about like sacrifice and so many things in this movie that this movie is about. And The Exorcist is great for all those reasons. Now, I watched the unrated director's cut, or the extended director's cut, my fault. And I've seen the theatrical cut too, but I do gotta say the director's cut adds a lot to the movie. It's the spider walk scene, which is honestly one of the creepiest scenes and scariest scenes I've seen in any movie. Like, this movie it's downright scary. Like, I love Poltergeist, I do like that movie, but that movie honestly didn't scare me. This for sure did. Especially when you see like quick shots of Captain Howdy or Pazuzu, the demon that possesses Reagan in this movie. Like, you see quick shots of Pazuzu and what you see will scare the crap out of you. Like I did. Like, I watched this movie in the middle of the night last night in preparation for this video. And I watched this movie with no lights on, and I crawled up in my blanket, and every time you get that shot where you see that quick scene of Pazuzu, I just be like, like, that's how scary this movie is, guys. Like, if you guys never see this movie, which honestly, pretty much like, definitely do so. That is it, guys, for this October Halloween horror mashup video. I honestly do not know just how this video is going to be, but I do know is that I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are having a good Halloween out there in this pandemic that we're in, and watch some good horror movies, which I'm about to do after this video. So let me know what's your favorite movie to watch during the spooky season inside of your minds. And as always, if you're new to my channel, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe.